Alright, let's see how this works today. We've had some hiccups with this new streaming software, sound levels, and all that other fun stuff. Also want to make sure that the chat works, so if Sydney is here, definitely make sure to say something in the chat so that I can see it. That would be just grand. I'm trying to make all of this work, so let me know if sound levels are off or video is stuttering or anything like that. Go from there, try to change some settings, all that other fun stuff. Alright. Oh, alright. Hello! Yes. Hello! Perfect. Okay. That seems a little bit better. So, sound levels are good so far. I don't obviously have anything running in Flight Simulator, but you can hear everything. Okay, sound is good. Fantastic. Alright, so we have the A2A Piper Comanche here. And I'll show you the flight we're doing today. It's going to be a pretty short one, especially in this particular aircraft. But here we are at beautiful Trenton Mercer Airport. And we're going to be flying up to North Jersey. It's just such a beautiful day. We're going to be utilizing real-world weather. And we're going to go via the Solberg VOR, the Stillwater VOR, and we're going to shoot an approach into one of my favorite airports, Aeroflex Andover. Nestled between two lakes. It's a very short runway at only 2,000 feet. It's very challenging, but the airport's beautiful. It's owned by the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. It is meticulously maintained, and it's just a lovely place to fly into. Needless to say, with lakes on both ends, it has swallowed many an aircraft in the past. And so we're going to try to do this utilizing limited technology. So we're going to come inside here. I've loaded it up. We got 4 people. It's a short runway. So I've limited the amount of fuel we have on board to, you can see it here, only 15 gallons in each wing tank. We've got nothing in the tip tanks, and they've got a lot of baggage because we're going up there to camp, because it's also, there's camping in the state park right there. It's a part of KTTN Valley State Park, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. But what I'm going to do to make it a little bit more challenging is we're going to remove the GPS right now, so that we can only use our regular old VORs. So there we go. The door is still open right now. This is a Piper aircraft. The ventilation is limited to that door being open, or this little window. There you go. And I've flown a lot of Piper aircraft. You literally would just stick your arm out the window, and that's how you would kind of cool yourself off. Although it's a nice day here, it's 80 degrees outside, and of course an aircraft cabin is going to be a little bit like a greenhouse. So it's much more warmer in the cabin right now. One of the things I like about A2A is it'll actually show you that it's actually showing only 79 inside the cabin right now, but trust me, it's going to be warmer. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Oh, actually, you know what? Wait, can I close the door by clicking on it? So it would seem. Lovely. Alright. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing fired up right now so we can get at least a little bit of air moving and stuff like that. Let's go down here, first turn on our fuel tanks. And when I say turn them on, you're just opening the valves so that fuel can flow to the engine. We're going to go ahead and turn the master switch on and the rotating beacon. The beacon is an anti-collision light, and it's always going to indicate to people that the engine is running or is about to run. And we can see that beacon right here, literally rotating on the aircraft. Most aircraft today don't actually have rotating beacons. They're just blinking beacons, but it does the exact same thing. I kind of like the fact that this is rotating. You can probably hear the motor sound on your end. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and put our mixture full rich, and we're going to turn on our fuel pump. And with the fuel pump on, we're waiting for a little bit of fuel pressure here. There it goes. Alrighty. Fuel pump off. Also, let's go ahead and open up our cabin vents right now, just because, you know, a little warm in here. It's not air conditioning, it's just a literal vent. Alright, let's go ahead and prime the engine. Now, priming the engine is going to take fuel right from the fuel strainer, and is going to spray it, like kind of atomize it, so it's a nice fine mist of fuel, and it's going to spray it right into the cylinders of the engine. It's going to need about 6 shots. This is a what's called a big block engine. It is a very, very large engine. We're going to go ahead and crack the throttle open, just a little bit of fuel. There we go. We're going to turn on our magnetos. And then we're going to pray to whatever God we believe in, and we're going to hit the starter. Let's do this. Come on, girl. You got this. There we go. Alright, back off the throttle a bit. Back down below 1,000 RPM. Woo! Didn't think that was going to start. Definitely took a lot of cranks to do that. Usually after about 15 seconds you want to hold off on the starter, let it cool down a little bit. Alright, first thing we check now that we got fuel pressure, okay, and we have oil pressure. That's the big one. Notice my ammeter is way to the charging side, and that's because I did have to hold that starter for quite a while. Let's go ahead and turn on our avionics and put on our headphones. I'm struggling to see. There we go. There we go. A little quieter. Okay. Yeah, let me know if my voice and the aircraft sound don't necessarily work well. Alright. You know, that door doesn't actually look closed. No, it's not. Not with the latch like that. I know these Piper frickin' things. There we go. See? Wasn't closed. Flown enough Piper aircraft to know that. Alright. Even though the avionics are on, we do have to turn on everything else manually. There's our transponder, which will be 1200. We're squawking VFR because we're a VFR aircraft today, meaning we're following visual flight rules. Okay, and we've now turned on COM 1 and COM 2. This is COM 1, this is NAV 1, COM 2, and NAV 2. And I'm just going to put these on sort of like other frequencies so that we don't get any sort of interference. Aircraft sounds are pretty quiet. Are you talking about inside or outside? I need to align my directional gyro to the magnetic compass. Looks like we're on a heading of about 160. Ugh, it's all the way around. Spinning around. Yeah, let me know if it's the inside, because the inside right now I've put on my headset, and it's a noise canceling headset, so it simulates the sound I would hear in the cockpit. But if it's also quiet outside, I can turn up inside. Yes, inside is going to be pretty quiet, but I can also adjust it a little bit there. So I just turned it up a little bit so that hopefully it's a little bit better, and there's just a little bit more. But it's going to be pretty quiet right now. Once we get rolling down the runway, it'll be a different story, hopefully. And stand by. It was quiet even before the headset, though. All right, well, let's adjust it a little bit more then. There we go. Once we, I turned up the volume a bit more. I don't want to turn it up too much before we start rolling down the runway. So after we do that, we'll adjust it again. Pulling back my mixture a little bit just to not foul my spark plugs. All right, we got all that set. That's all set, all taken care of. Fantastic. I want to get my engine RPMs up just a little bit there. There we go. All right, and I need to just plug in the frequencies for these VORs. Solberg is on 112.9. Flip. And Stillwater is on 109.6. I used to know these by heart. There we go. Alrighty. Alright, let's get one of our landing lights on. Taxi out to the runway. Okay. Checking all the way around. Make sure I'm not chopping anybody in half with my propeller. That would cause my insurance to go up. I don't really care about the people. It's just the insurance. It's a bear, you know. As always with all general aviation aircraft, we're steering with our feet, so we're using our rudder pedals here. Might be something I can show you if we look down. There you go. Okay, that's kind of what it looks like. Go left, go right, and then each pedal has a brake at the top, an independent brake. So I can just hit the left brake or just the right brake. And we call that differential braking, and it assists us in making tighter turns because the nose wheel of most general aviation aircraft can only be deflected 25 to 30 degrees without use of brakes, but as soon as you start using the brakes, it's going to pull the nose wheel a little further into the turn. It does take quite a bit of practice to get used to taxiing an aircraft around because so many people are used to driving cars, and so they hold on to the yoke in front of them, which I've hidden here, but if I bring it back, you can see it here. And what they do is they're like, oh, I need to go left up here, right? And they turn the yoke like this, okay? And it's moving it right now because it's connected to the rudder pedals in this simulation, but in real life, the plane would not have gone left or right. It would have just stayed right there and kept on barreling straight down the taxiway. All right, let's come to a stop right here, holding short of runway 34 here at Trenton Mercer. This is the shorter runway here. But it's still decently long at about 5,000 feet. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and set our parking brake. Alright, parking brake is on, and we're going to go mixture full rich, and we're going to bring our power up to 2,000 RPM. Alright, sound is better. Good. Alright, so we're at 2,000 RPM. Check our engine gauges, fuel pressure's in the green, oil pressure's in the green, oil temp's in the green, cylinder head temperature is in the green. Let's go ahead and cycle our prop control. We're going to look first for an RPM drop. There's that is. Now we're going to go ahead and look for an increase in manifold pressure. There that is. And now we're going to look at our oil pressure gauge, and we're going to make sure that there's a drop in oil pressure. Last but not least, a lot of people like to look out on the windscreen to see if there's any, like, it looks like a gold glitter after you do that prop cycling 3 times. And that gold glitter would mean that oil is leaking from your propeller hub, and that's not a good thing. And I actually had that happen once in flight, and I saw it, and I was like, ooh, I'm glad I know what this is. All right, then let's go ahead and check our carb heat. So when we pull on the carburetor heat, our RPM should drop. It sure does. Take that off. Check our magnetos, make sure both are working. There's right. Ooh, that dropped a little too much. That sounds fouled. Let's try that again. So we're at 2,000. Let's go to the right one. Yeah, about 100 RPM lost, but then I go back to, oh, sorry about that. Go back to both. And I go to the left one. Oh yeah, see how that's a 500 RPM drop? It's because the plug is fouled. This plane gets fouled so easily. Now in real life, the way you can clear it, and you can do it in this plane too, is you bring back the mixture. Okay, this is your fuel air mixture, and you would bring it back until you start losing RPM, like we see here, so that we have pretty much the least amount of fuel going in. And you leave the power in pretty high, and what this is going to do is it's actually going to increase the temperature of the engine, and it's going to burn the fouling out. The fouling on the spark plugs is just a carbon deposit, carbon and lead, and so you just burn it out. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use my handy-dandy iPad here and go to maintenance and go to engine, clean spark plugs. Aha. Alright, let's try that again. Left. See? Only 100 RPM drop. Alright, perfect. Back to both, and then we'll bring our power back down to about 1,000. I've had fouling in airplanes on more than one occasion. It is just the way it is. Alright, I think we're all ready to go here. DG is aligned with magnetic compass, all that set up. I'm going to have to align my course and heading for the runway, about 340 on both. There we go. And we're going to turn on our remaining lights. Fuel pump comes on for takeoff. Everything else looks pretty kosher. Alright. Let's pretend we're cleared for takeoff. There is a tower here at Trenton, but we're not going to talk to them. We're going to be rebels today. Alright, crossing that hold short line. Even though we're heavy today, we're not going to use flaps for takeoff, as this is a long enough runway. Alright, we're aligned with the runway. heels to the floor so they stay off the brakes, and here we go. Smoothly advancing the throttle until we get full power. There's full power. Airspeed is alive. This plane likes to just fly itself right off the ground. Just a little bit of back pressure. There it goes. Alright. We have a positive rate of climb. Gear up. Alright, we're just tracking our runway heading. You'll notice my little yellow CDI needle, course deviation indicator, just came alive, and that's because as I started climbing, it started picking up the signal from the Solberg VOR, which is what we're going to go to. But first and foremost, we're just going to climb away from the runway on runway heading until we're at 1,000 feet, and then we can start turning on course. Climbing out here about 95 knots. Still doing a pretty good job. We're getting about 1,000 feet per minute, even with 4 people, although, like I said, we're pretty light on fuel right now. Needing a lot of right rudder to keep the inclinometer down here centered. This is a very high horsepower, high torque engine, so I have all these left turning tendencies. Alright, there comes 1,000 feet. What we're going to go ahead and do is turn off our fuel pump, and we're going to bring our manifold pressure back to about 25 inches. And then we're also in the process going to dial back the RPMs with the propeller knob. There we go, about 2,500 RPM. So we got 25 over 25. That's all looking great. And now let's go ahead and see what course we got to take to go to the Solberg VOR. So I'm going to go ahead and start twisting my course knob here until the CDI is centered. There it is. So it's going to be about 030. So I'm going to start turning in that particular direction. This is old school tech. VORs made their debut in the late 50s, early 60s. They're still around today, but they are decommissioning a lot of them as GPS kind of takes hold. Alright. Always have your heading indicator aligned with the course you're flying. I'm going to go ahead now and turn on the autopilot. Now, this autopilot is kind of old school. It's all in my turn coordinator here. That's why all those lights just came on. And it only has the ability to laterally control the airplane through the elevators. It can hold altitude, but it cannot climb or descend on its own. So I'm going to go ahead right now and engage its navigation mode. And so now it's going to laterally adjust so that it flies to the Solberg VOR. Alright, and we're going to keep going up. We're only going up to 3,000 feet today. Eagle-eyed people would tell me, well, that's an IFR cruising altitude. You need a VFR, or you need a 1,000 plus 500 feet. But that only exists if you're more than 3,000 feet above ground level, which we're not here because as we go into North Jersey, all of the elevation, the terrain, is about 600 to 700 feet above sea level. So we'll actually be less than 3,000 feet above ground level. But I always like them pointing that out. Alright, we've got about 200 feet to go for level off. Line that heading knob a little bit more. It's like one of those OCD things pilots get. They always have to center the heading knob. Alright, we're going to start bringing the nose down to level off. And then here's what happens. As soon as we hit 3,000 feet, I engage altitude engagement mode. And it's going to start accelerating. It's going to have to try to hold the plane where it wants to go, but it can't trim, so I have to trim. And one of the fun things about this plane is that the trim wheel's up here, so you get to crank it over here, so I gotta keep trimming and trimming and trimming and trimming until this thing stops yelling at me. Ooh, too far. What are you doing? I don't know what just happened there. But you know what you do? You just click off the autopilot and you go back to flying the plane. Sometimes autopilots get all wonky. That is for darn sure. We'll try to recycle that. Bring it back up to 3,000 feet. And as we're leveling, we're also going to bring back our power a little bit, about 22 inches. And we'll also bring back our prop, about 2,400 RPM. We can lean the mixture a little bit. I'm not going to go into severe leaning or anything like that, but alright, so let's get her nice and level. And we will engage the nav mode and the altitude hold mode. Whoa, man, it really wants to run away there, and I don't know why. I'd say I'd over-trimmed it, but I don't think that's the case. I'm going to try to manually trim it right now, which is what I would do in real life. So basically you do that. It's almost like if you imagine your car pulling left or right on the highway, and then you can slowly trim it so that it stays centered. Let's see. Alright, so the goal is you should be almost like hands off. That's pretty close. Alright, altitude engagement is on. Alright, not bad. Now we're hauling right now. We're doing about 170 knots indicated. Because I don't have a GPS in here, I don't know what I'm doing over the ground. So I'm probably going possibly even a little bit faster. Nice day here. You got some little puffball clouds out there. Nothing crazy, nothing to worry about. But we're still on our way to the Solberg VOR. What I can do right now is I can switch to the Stillwater VOR and begin navigating to that one, now that I'm high enough to receive the signal, most likely. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into heading mode. Okay, so now it's going to follow the heading bug, that little green triangle on there. And I'm going to switch my frequencies to the Stillwater VOR. And we can see how that just happened. I'm going to go ahead now and turn my CDI into little lines. So it looks like it's going to be almost north, and it's centering right now too, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into nav mode. There we go. And as this CDI centers, the plane should start slowly turning left to intercept. How's everyone doing? You doing good? How about you? This guy has... Oh! This guy's seen some stuff. A little worried about him. Alright, fantastic. Now, I think... Oh, this is an ADF. ADF is a really old school navigation piece of equipment. It means automatic direction finder. And all that it is a AM radio. That's all that is. Nothing special there. But the fun thing is, if you want to listen to a sports game or something like that, you can tune any AM radio station on here, and then you can listen to it in your headset. And AM radio waves are low frequency, so they actually can bend and follow the curvature of the Earth or any obstacles in their way, like hills and stuff like that. So, and especially at night, when sound waves will reflect off of the ionosphere, you can hear stuff that's hundreds of miles away. So when I used to fly aircraft that had an ADF in it, I would do that, and I'd hear sports games from halfway across the country, and that was kind of cool. Even though I don't really care about sports ball, it was just kind of fun. This aircraft does not have what's called DME, or actually, wait a minute, hold on. Ho, it does have DME. Oh, look at that. Oh, these old units, the narco units, are so awesome. So DME right here is called distance measuring equipment, and it was all the rage when it showed up, because before you were flying just like we did now, where you basically follow the needle, but you don't know how far you are from something. When DME showed up, it allowed you to measure your distance to these VOR stations, and as a result, now I know that I am 27.6 miles away. Oh, look, and I can switch it to ground speed. So I'm doing 143 knots. So I'm only doing 143 knots, but my indicated is 170, which tells me I'm flying into a headwind. So this is my indicated airspeed. It's kind of like what the aircraft feels like it's doing through the air, but my ground speed is what I'm actually doing over the ground. And that's always contingent upon headwinds and tailwinds. And so right now, 141 knots over the ground is 160 miles an hour. So a little bit slower than the average New Jersey driver, so there's probably some people passing me down there. Round Valley Reservoir, huge kind of a VFR waypoint. That also means that Solberg Airport is somewhere over there, and that's going to be Spruce Run Reservoir. So we're over Somerset. We're right on the edge of Somerset and Hunterdon counties in New Jersey right now. Let's see if my iPad should be able to tell me what the temperature in the flight deck now is. 62. That's nice. And the cool thing is, too, it really does react. So if I turned on the cabin heat right now, back to it, shows me that it's going to go up. Now it's 63, so on and so forth, and I can just melt everybody inside. Not going to do that, though. Heat is useful in the winter. Not so much in the summer right now, but if it was a little too chilly, I can obviously close a cabin vent. Not going to do that right now. This is a great tool. It's a digital engine monitor. It tells me my fuel usage, so I'm burning 14.9 gallons per hour. Here's my fuel remaining, and then how long I have in fuel remaining, my voltage on my battery, and then each cylinder, what it's doing, including the temperature inside that cylinder, so on and so forth. And then up here is a digital representation of my analog gauges. So I've got 22.3 inches of manifold pressure, and my propeller is spinning at 2380. This is what's considered a complex aircraft. Therefore, you do have to have a complex endorsement to fly it, as well as a high-performance endorsement, because it's more than 200 horsepower. But that being said, one of the things people have a hard time getting used to is the new blue knob that's added in the cockpit when you have a complex aircraft. And the blue knob literally is going to twist the blades of the propeller and allow it to take a much larger bite of air. And I always like using the example, if you were to be able to adjust a ceiling fan's blades so that the blade would actually turn more vertical and be able to move a lot more air, that's what this blue knob actually does. The problem with that is, are you applying enough pressure, enough power to the backside of that ceiling fan in order to keep it moving? So it can be much more efficient. It can move much more air, but you're going to have to modulate your power with manifold pressure in order to keep that spinning. So right now, if I were to move my throttle back a little bit, okay, even though my manifold pressure comes down, my propeller RPM stays the same, because I've told it, hey, I want 2400 RPM, so it's constantly going to try twisting the blades to maintain 2400 RPM, and it's just going to find the absolute most efficient way to maintain 2400 RPM with the power you've given it. So there you go. There's your little crash course. So 140 knots. Let's go back to our distance. 19 miles right now. Okay, so we usually could fly a lot faster than this, but this is about as fast as it's going to go today. So while we're 18 miles away, I will show you the approach we're going to do. All right, so here's what we're looking at right now. I can show you where we are. We've kind of bypassed the Solberg VOR, and we're coming up right now on Morris County, and you can see, and Warren County actually. Here's Hackettstown out here, and Schooley's Mountain we're about to fly over. But here's the approach we're going to be doing. This is the VOR Alpha approach. It's not specific to any runway. If you look at this one, this is a GPS approach to runway 3 in Andover. And because this approach is not specific to a runway, it's given a letter identifier rather than a number identifier. In this case, VOR Alpha. I think it's more than 30 degrees off the runways when they start lettering them. And it's an old school approach. So we're approaching from the south. We're going to fly to the VOR. We're going to fly outbound. We're going to do a timed turn. Okay, a procedure turn, and then we're going to fly inbound. And when we do that, we're going to use our profile view on the bottom in order to step down. So we have to cross the VOR at least 3,000 feet, which we're at now. And then once we're inbound to the VOR, we can go down to 2,800, and finally we can go down to 1,560. Now, it's a beautiful day in New Jersey. Normally we would just fly this VFR, but I'm just trying to test stuff out right now. So we're going to do this kind of old school procedure, and we will certainly see how it goes. Probably not well. Probably not well. This is coming from flying the Airbus, which does everything for you. This is a lot of work. Do I have a time? I have a clock in here. I don't think I have like another timer though, do I? Doesn't look like it. All right, I might have to use my phone because we actually have to time the legs. DME is certainly going to help, but it's gonna be interesting. So do not judge me if I totally messed this one up. So we're still in nav mode. We're still headed towards the Stillwater VOR. We're 14 miles away. Take a look at all our gauges right now. Everything is in the green. Suction. The one thing about Piper aircraft that's so strange is that the suction gauge, which determines how much vacuum pressure is coming from the vacuum pump to power certain instruments, like our directional gyro and our attitude indicator, doesn't actually have like any indication of like what's good or what's bad. It's just like, hey, here's how much suction you have. Whereas in Cessna aircraft, it's like, you're in the green. And Piper's like, we ran out of green paint, so just guess. I don't know. By the way, this is the ADF indicator up here. Yeah, if we were actually using it. And this Piper aircraft also comes with this fun little fuel flow gauge right here too, which is kind of not that useful anymore now that you have the little digital monitor here. But it's pretty simple cockpit. We have a flap lever. They're not even electric. You just use the full lever. Emergency gear release down there and all that other fun stuff. It's a great airplane. It's an absolutely great airplane. Piper's built some great stuff in the past. I think now now they don't even build that much anymore. Like the Cherokee series and stuff like that. And they're okay. Flown plenty of them. You can see out there, those are our tip tanks. All right, so they add a little bit of extra fuel if we wanted to, and they're not here on our main fuel gauges. Instead, they're down here with this little auxiliary gauge, and we can cycle between left and right to see how much is in them. You'll notice that they are indeed very empty right now because we were not filling these up. This aircraft has quite the range. It does not burn that much fuel, and with full tanks, you would not be able to take a full complement of passengers, but at full tanks, this plane can easily exceed about 700 or 800 miles of range, so it's very, very capable. All right, 9.4. So this is going to get pretty exciting here real soon because we're going to have to turn outbound at the station, and it's going to be a sharp turn. So one of the things I'm going to need to do is slow this plane down because this plane is going just way too fast right now. It's going to barrel right through the approach to Andover Aeroflex, so we don't want to do that. One of the things I love about A2A is their attention to detail. This is, it's like a, what you call it? There's probably a really easy word for this here. Anyway, it's so you don't slip, because obviously if you're walking onto the plane's wing to get into the cabin, if it's wet, you're going to slip very easily. And so this is an abrasive material. It feels like sandpaper, so that you don't slip, and you also don't scuff up the airplane. But it gets worn down very easily and dirty, and you can see that here. And that's just one of those little details that I love. So it's time to start slowing down. So we're going to bring our manifold pressure back. And we're actually going to bring our prop full forward. Bringing the propeller up to a higher RPM increases resistance. Okay, and if we look, our airspeed is slowly winding down. Now, I'm going to have to bring up my chart over here so that I can see what's going on. All right, slowing down. Our outbound course today is going to be 274. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is pre-select 274 on my heading, because I might use my heading bug to initiate the turn. The nav mode version doesn't do quite as well. And once we get a little bit closer, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because we're going to get into what's called the cone of confusion, which is a point within about a mile or two of the VOR, right above it, where the indicator in the cockpit is just not going to be reliable. Sometimes the needle swings a lot. Sometimes it indicates nothing at all. You never know. So we're 5 miles away now. We're slowing through about 145 knots. We're looking pretty good. You heard that beep right there. As I'm slowing down, I'm losing the production of lift over my wings. So the nose wants to drop on me. In order to stop that from happening, the aircraft needs to increase back pressure on the yoke, but it needs trim to help it out. It can't just hold it there. And since the trim in this aircraft is not electric, like I said, it's manual with this crank up here, I have to manually trim it. And it just yells at me until I do. That's kind of fun. The aircraft's just like, I will keep yelling at you until you do this. Thanks. So appreciative. All right, so looking good. Awesome. All right, about 3 miles to go to the VOR, so we're going to turn outbound, start a timer, follow the course, all that fun stuff. In fact, at this point, because we're tracking this really well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and center up my heading bug. I lied about that, and I'm going to put it into heading mode. There we go. So now it's following heading. I'm going to change my course to the outbound course, which is 274. Imagine it like a bicycle wheel. And there's 360 spokes. We call them radials, and we can follow any one of them we want. And in this case, we're going to follow bicycle spoke number 274. And they do face magnetically in the direction. So 274 is almost perfectly due west. All right, CDI is going to get a little crazy here momentarily. I want to slow down just a bit more. Still kind of hauling here. We got 2 miles to the VOR, so it's going to start losing its mind. So I'm glad I turned off the navigation mode and put it into heading mode here. All right. So my goal is going to be to kind of jog it over and intercept my outbound course here momentarily. We're coming up on, yeah, a mile. Let's go ahead and, nope, keep that at 274. Oops. When you spin the wrong knob. So we're going to spin the heading knob right now, get the plane going in that direction. It's yelling at me to trim up a little bit, so we're going to trim up a little bit. Make sure our mixture is full rich. Power's back a little far. Let's get the carb heat on, make sure we don't pick up any carburetor icing. Okay. We're headed away from the station now, so I think we cut the corner pretty well, but we're not in line with that radial that I want yet. So we got to wait here for that to come in. Alright, I don't want to get too slow here, but 110 knots is pretty nice. Let's bring in a little power to help it out here. Yes, stop yelling at me. I will trim you. Alright, let's go to intercept a little bit more. You have to imagine that this yellow CDI needle is the course we want to be on. And this is the way I'm going. So if the needle is to my right, I have to go right. So that's exactly how that works. I might have cut the corner a little early, but that's okay. I was flying into a headwind, so that reduced my ground speed. And look, there she is. All right, so it's aligning. So what I'm going to do to help it out just a little bit, okay, as it comes in, I'm going to go ahead and turn my heading knob a bit in that direction so that it starts lining up. It's kind of like we're changing lanes. And I'm going to go ahead and put it into nav mode. And I'm going to let the autopilot nav mode engage. And I'm going to look down here and see where we're at. We need about a minute outbound. All right, so when the second hand gets all the way back around to about 25 seconds, we'll be good to go. All right. Now, remember that if this was an actual approach that I was doing, I'd be in the clouds right now or in fog or whatever it was. I wouldn't be able to see outside. Instead, this is a good practice day. Looking around here, we are just over the beautiful part of northwestern New Jersey, which most people, think Jersey is a total trash state, but it is not. That's Blairstown Airport over there. It's a very beautiful state. So you hate us because you ain't us. Alright, we're coming up on 1 minute. And now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back into heading mode. And we got to fly our course reversal to actually get this plane turned around. So the first heading is going to be a left turn to heading 229 in 5 seconds. Close enough for government work. Left turn 229. Alright, there we go. Now while it's turning, I'm going to switch my CDI to the inbound course, which is going to be 094. I went the long way on that one, but that's okay. There's 094, and we're turning outbound, so we need 1 minute outbound starting right now, so when the second hand comes back around to the 50. All right, fantastic. Everything's looking golden right now. Like I said, this is an old school approach. That's kind of why I'm enjoying doing it. VOR Alpha into Andover. Fuel pump should come on at this point because we're going to be landing real soon. That's an electrically driven fuel pump, by the way. There is also the engine-driven fuel pump that is running constantly. One of the downsides to a low-wing aircraft is that the fuel sits below the engine, so it can't be gravity-fed. There's no way to do that. If this were a Cessna with a high wing, the fuel tanks are in the wings, and it can gravity flow down to the engine. So in the event that everything were to fail, fuel will always still reach there, since physics never stops working. Well, unless you watch one of those, like, end of the world type movies, where like the core stops spinning. I guess that would be a bad day. All right, we got 5 seconds to the turn. We're gonna make a right-hand turn to heading 049, and there it is, right turn 049. Instrument flying is super fun. It's very rewarding because you're doing all these old school procedures, you're timing, you're turning, you're twisting, you're tuning, you're doing all these T words, and when all is said and done, you're going to fly down sometimes to within 200 feet of a runway, and the whole time you're wearing these foggles, these blinders over your eyes, and so you'll never see outside. You'll only be able to see your instruments, and so if you do it right, at the last second, the instructor will say, "All right, look up," and you'll look up, and the runway will be right in front of you. And man, is that just a rewarding feeling. It's a great feeling. All right, so we're turning inbound right now. Let's make it trim down just a little bit, and that's because we're picking up a little airspeed here. Trim her down just a bit. There you go, slow down. All right, now, once we're established inbound, we can go down to 2,800 feet. It's only 200 feet, but maybe that gets us out of the clouds. Okay. These altitudes that we're going to be descending to, they're all called MDAs, minimum descent altitudes. They're based on where we're located, and we look at the chart, and we see where we are and how low we can go. And we do these little step downs. All right. So now the nice thing is we're waiting for the CDI to come in. While that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and disengage altitude hold. I'm going to descend for 2,800 feet. I'm going to bring back the power a little bit. I'm going to watch the CDI because it's going to want to come in real soon. We're not that far away from the course. Okay, there's 2,800 feet. Re-engage the altitude hold mode. Whoa, you alright there, buddy? Alright, there comes the CDI. I'm going to help it out just a little bit. Like I said, this is kind of an old school autopilot, so it's not super great at course tracking. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of a turn in that direction, just to assist it, you know? Hold its hand just a little. Alright, and while it's starting to turn, I'm going to go ahead and engage nav mode again, and it should capture the course. Let's see how it does. It's turning. There it goes. By the way, this is what you would see when you are flying on instruments, whether in real bad weather or for practice with an instructor. This is all you would be able to see. You would not see outside. You would only be able to see your instruments, and at the last second they'd be like, all right, look on up, and you'd look up and boom, runway right in front of you. Or there's no runway because you messed up. That's also a possibility. All right, trimming it up with just a little bit here. All right, now the other thing too is when we cross the VOR, a lot's about to happen. Okay, we got to start a timer, and we need to begin our descent to our MDA, which is 1560. I'm going to start a timer on my phone because, yeah, timer. Okay, got it ready. And we're going to be looking for about 100 knots here, so we're going to slow up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and put in our first notch of flaps. I said first notch of flaps. There we go. All right, we're waiting for it's this little white triangle here is called the ambiguity indicator, and it tells us whether we're going to the VOR or from the VOR. So when it flips, we will now be headed away from the VOR, and I can start my timer. Yes, everything in aviation has to be complicated. Even the stupid little arrow here is called the ambiguity indicator. It's like a tube with a ball in it filled with fluid to see whether you're coordinated. Like we're like, that's the inclinometer. Okay. Whatever, we just make everything super complicated. All my lights are on, fuel pump's on, wants me to trim down. Oh, going too fast. There we go. You know what? Gear down. That'll assist. Alright, make sure my course is correct. 094, because we got to be getting pretty close to the station here. So I want to be right on 100 knots, because that's the only way my timer will work. These approaches are so old school. It's like, how do you know when the approach is over? And if you don't see the runway, how do you know when to conduct a missed approach to go around? Well, with these old school approaches, when you don't have a GPS, you have to use a timer. And when the timer runs out, you have to go around. But for the time to work appropriately, your airspeed has to be right on the money. In fact, with this one, that is the only way to determine it. I can't even use distance from the VOR. Yes, I will trim. There we go. All right. So we got our first notch of flaps in and our gear down. That's going to help us a little bit in the descent. Doing 95 knots right now. That's okay, because we're going to start descending momentarily here as soon as the ambiguity indicator flips. All right. Get my chart back up. All right. So you can see we're only half a mile from the VOR. It's going to get a little squirrely here, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into heading mode because it doesn't know what it wants to do. There we go. Now here comes the ambiguity indicator flip. Let's watch it. Okay, we're right over the VOR, and don't make me look like an idiot. There it goes. I'm going to go ahead and start my timer and stopwatch. There we go. Timer is running. All right, and I'm going to put it back into nav mode now, so it follows that, and we can go down to our minimum descent altitude for this approach, 1,560 feet. So we're going to disengage the altitude keeping, bring back our power, and we're going to go ahead and begin our descent. Normally, you're going to do what's called a dive and drive. You're going to descend at a pretty good rate. The idea being you want to get out of the clouds. These are non-precision approaches, okay? Your goal is not to make it all necessarily gentle or anything like that. It is to get out of the clouds and gain visual reference, okay, to everything around you. All right? Let's get my power back a little bit more. We're going to put in a second notch of flaps. That'll assist with a little bit of drag, okay? All right, we're passing through 2,400 feet right now. Remember, we can go down to 1,560 feet. And right now I'm hitting 1 minute on my time. I can, at 3 minutes and 32 seconds is when I will have to go missed, maintaining 100 knots. All right, passing through 2,100 feet. Again, normally there wouldn't be anything outside. This is practice, yada, yada, yada. You can see we're 2.2 miles from the VOR. Everything's looking just rosy. And remember, a lot of people, when they do these non-precision approaches, they're looking for a runway right in front of them. But this is the VOR Alpha. It is not aligned with any particular runway. In fact, we come in at a pretty good angle to it. Probably about a 50-degree angle to the runway. All right, so 1560 is going to be the altitude. I'm going to bring in the power, get that speed up a little bit. And that's 1580, close enough. Altitude engaging. All right, definitely need a little more power here. Yeah, I know, you want trim, you want trim. See, now I've got my gear down and 2 notches of flap in, so it's on the struggle bus. So we're gonna get in a lot more power here because I'm about 10 knots slower than I want to be. I could always take a notch of flaps out if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to. All right. By the way, while this is all going on, I have to be making radio calls. Andover Aeroflex is a uncontrolled field, so there's no control tower. I would look on my chart to see what the frequency is. It's a CTAF, or a Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, and I would be announcing my position on there and all that other stuff, and looking out for any other traffic. But I might be in the clouds right now. All right, we're at 2 minutes and 38 seconds, so we are. We got about 1 minute to go before we have to go missed, and I think I'm starting to see an airport up here. I see a little beacon, and I see the lakes, so I think that's going to be it. Fantastic. And this approach, you can see it's going to bring us right in at an angle to it. Ooh, oh man, that is... I can't believe I was able to find the airport. Look at that. Nothing but net. Wonderful. All right. Still doing about 100 knots. We're going to pass over the airfield. Normally we'd look down, check out what runway to be using based on our wind direction. I think all the wind in New Jersey today is kind of out of the north, so we can plan on using runway 3. And by the way, right here, 3 minutes and 32 seconds. So if I didn't see the airport at this point, I'd have to execute a missed approach, and those instructions are also on the approach plate. But there is the airport. Now, this is a challenging airport in its own right. So we're going to go ahead now and put it back into heading mode. And we're going to fly kind of right away from the airport complex, maintaining about 90 to 100 knots. There it is. And you can see how it is right between 2 lakes. So if you haven't got a good approach going for you, go around and try again. Winds are variable, 320. It's getting a little gusty out there, but it is out of the north, so that's what we're going to plan on. I'm going to go ahead and adjust my course indicator so that it aligns with the runway to help me here to maintain situational awareness of where everything is. And again, I'd be announcing my intentions and all that other stuff. Traffic pattern altitude here is about actually I think it's a little higher than 1,600 feet, but that's okay. All right. And we're going to do what's called a teardrop right now for the right downwind for runway 3. Normally you're doing left traffic, however this is a right traffic pattern for runway 3. So what we're going to do is kind of like a half of a figure 8 right now. That, again, that's another one of those things that's confusing to student pilots and stuff like that early on. It's kind of visualizing how all of that works. I'm going to make sure to maintain that slow speed because remember, the faster this aircraft goes, okay, the larger the turn radius is going to be. So I'm just going to kind of keep spinning this bad boy around so we're in the opposite direction of runway 3, which is going to be, don't go the other way, don't go the other way. This is an old school, you know what, be a pilot, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn all that off. Autopilot is off now, and I'm just going to fly the plane. All right. Sorry about that. I almost turned into a Cirrus pilot there. Should have just pulled the parachute. Alright, a little bit of power there. We're at 90 knots. I don't want to get too slow here. We're going to maintain it. Our MDA of about 1,560 feet as we come through the teardrop. And we're going to end up going in the opposite direction of runway 3, which is going to be heading about 210. And hopefully I haven't lost sight of the airport, because that's another big problem. You lose sight of the airport and you kind of got to start all over. And I don't want to do that. Lost just a little bit of altitude there, but I think we're looking pretty good. Alrighty. There we go. A little more power. Like I said, I'm dragging those flaps in the gear right now, so it's just... Okay. Airport's right on over there. I'm on a bit of a wide downwind, but that's okay. There's a community right near this airport that are a bunch of NIMBYs. So... what happens is if you overfly them, they're all like, oh my god, airplane noise. Yes, you built your house next to an airport. Congratulations, you're an idiot. Alright. Excuse me, sir, you are blocking my view. Alright. We're pretty much abeam the airport at this point. I recognize some of the points here. Here's the railroad. So we are about abeam. Carb heat is already on. Okay, let's go ahead and start bringing our power back just a little bit. And we're going to begin a shallow descent, about 500 feet per minute. Flaps are already in. We just got to get our last notch of flaps in as well. All right. And we're going to start our base turn. Again, this is right traffic, runway 3 at Andover Aeroflex. Don't want to get too fast here, but I do want to maintain just that shallow descent rate. Yeah, this is the old Lackawanna Cutoff Railroad right there. It's actually in the process of slowly being restored. And Amtrak has indicated they are going to use this to run from New York City to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Because everyone's favorite place to go is Scranton. Alright, there's the airport over there. So we're on the base leg, so we're 90 degrees to the runway we intend to land on. Again, I'd be announcing all of this on the radio. I'd say Andover traffic, you know, Piper's on a right base, runway 3, Andover. Self-announcing sounds kind of funny because you are just like talking to yourself. And out here, it's not actually required to have a radio. And at Andover, there's lots of little airplanes that don't even have electrical systems, let alone radios. So we're going to start a shallow turn to final here, and I'm going to put in my last notch of flaps. There we go. And we go ahead and do our landing checklist. In this case, it's going to be GUMPS, okay, gas, undercarriage, mixture, and prop, and they're all set. So we're looking pretty rosy. Oh, look at that turn. Not too shabby. All right, now remember, very short runway. Let's make sure not to overshoot it. If it looks like we're going to overshoot it, we're going to go around and we're going to try again. Alright, I want to get to a nice established rate of descent. Speed's coming back. I'm going to be aiming for like 80 to 90 knots. This is what we call a short field landing. I'm trimming the aircraft up a lot right now because without the power and with my airspeed kind of disintegrating here, the nose is going to want to keep coming down on me. There we go. About 80 knots. Looking just beautiful. Okay, smoothly bringing the power to idle. A little bit of a round out. A little bit of a float. Nothing crazy. My energy's on point, so I don't care. There we go. A little bit of back pressure on my yoke. Gentle braking. But you can see how quickly this runway runs out. That's the end of the runway right there. You don't want to go into the lake. That would be bad. Alright, flaps are coming up. Carb heat has to come off. There we go. Let's exit the runway. That was not too shabby. 48 feet per minute in the landing. Now the taxiways here, oh my god, they're so narrow. This almost looks like the developer, whoever designed the scenery, made them too small. This is how small they are in real life. There we go. Come on. There we go. You can do it. You can do it. And what we're going to do is, I told you we're going to do some camping. We're going to go taxi down here, and then we're going to cross the runway and set up some camping gear. Alright, fuel pump's coming off. Landing lights are off. Strobe lights are off. Leave the beacon on. We're going to lean the mixture just a little bit so that we try not to foul the plugs for next time. Maybe get a little air in here. Ooh, that feels good. That's nice. There's nothing better feeling than opening your window on a general aviation aircraft right after you land. And it doesn't even matter if it's like summer or winter. You're probably sweating, and so it's just a wonderful feeling. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang a left up here. We're going to cross the runway. Again, uncontrolled field, so we're going to make sure to look both ways. We're going to go ahead and turn on all of our lights to make ourselves as visible as possible. All right. Let's go ahead and start kind of across the runway. Fun fact about this airport, it used to have a very famous airport cat. So famous, in fact, that there were several news articles about it, including when the poor kitty passed away. I remember seeing this cat back in my very, very early days of flying, and in true cat fashion, the cat would sun itself out on the taxiway, and you would have to go around it. I wish I were making this up. It would just lay there. Like a true cat, it was like, I'm not moving. And he would just lay there. So you can look it up. Andover Aeroflex cat, and you will find that cute, adorable little thing. Alright. So we're going to park down here and set up our camping gear. Again, most of these are add-ons. This is some scenery from online of Andover Aeroflex. This is the A2A Comanche, which is just unbelievably good. Alright, now let's cut it into the grass, give it a little bit of power, and we're going to try to turn it around, and hopefully this thing doesn't like hit some rock I can't see and, you know, break. Alright, a little bumpy, a little bumpy. A little bit of right brake. Close enough for government work. Coming back inside. Parking brake is set. Okay, you can turn the lights back off. Fantastic. That's all off. Avionics are coming off. Okay, and then we're going to take the mixture out to cut off. Whoo! Beacon's off. Master switch is off. Unplug my headset right there. This all looks like it's set. Close our vents so birds and whatnot don't get in there overnight. And we can go ahead and turn our fuel tanks back off. And now all you schmucks who didn't give me a single cent, hey, dead eyes, get out of my plane. They didn't pay me for any of this flight. Let's go ahead and kick them out of the plane. That'll sound good. There you go. Get out. There you go. Get wrecked. And so here's my favorite part. This is a great add-on. I'm trying to remember the developer. Maybe it'll say up here. But it's called the Camp Out Utility. By 42. I don't know if that's how you say it. If it's 42 or like slant 42. But it'll load here in a second. And you can literally set up a campground for your aircraft. And initially when I saw this, because it was like $4 or $5 on the Flight Sim store, I'm like, this is silly. Who was going to do this? It's so much fun. You get to pick all your different tents and stuff like that. So what we'll do is I think we're going to go with this tent. And then what you can do is you can put in different areas. So I'll put it back here. All right, we're not too close to the plane. All right, fantastic. And then, oh, I mean, do we need a bearskin rug? Well, we definitely need a fire pit, right? We're also going to put that further away from the plane. There's a hazard in roasting marshmallows near highly flammable avgas. We better put a little tent out here, you know, for all our foodstuffs and hanging out. Let's see what else. There's so much. You can obviously, for the winter, you can put a snowman out there. It is, of course, July, even here in New Jersey, so we're not going to do that. My little camping chair. By the way, yes, I'm the only one here. Oh, wait, I did invite those other 3 schmucks, didn't I? Jeez. Almost forgot about that. All right, well, let's see if there's anything else I want to add. Look at this. You can have... Oh, wait. That's right. You can have doggos. All right, let's find the derpiest looking dog. First of all, let me get rid of all the other stuff. All right. Here are all the dog choices. Look at this. Lame, 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 very lame. Buddy the Beagle. Oh, Glizzy. Oh, Glizzy. Yeah, you're the one. You're going to be right there, and I'll even give you, like, some food. How does that sound? Like, this is what I love about this. It's just so silly. But now, if we look out here... Oh, sorry. I might have placed it a little too far away. I think I can go... Well, anyway, you can see it. There's my tent, and there's my little camping chair. And there's Glizzy the dog. And the best part about this little app, too, Camp Out, is it wants you to be green. It doesn't want you to litter or leave anything behind, right? So if you fire up the engine and take off, it like docks you all these like green points and stuff like that, and you get like a notification that you've been a bad steward of the environment. The only thing I want to see is if I can add like another Glizzy close on by. Let's get multiple Glizzies. Poor Glizzy. Oh my god, Glizzy, you look so sad. Here, let's have you like hide under the wing because you just look like a sad dog. Poor Glizzy. Alright, you hiding down there, buddy? Oh no, look. You see Glizzy down there right by the wheel. Oh, even moving its head sad. Oh man, poor Glizzy. Anyway, hopefully the sound and the video worked on that pretty well. I was actually kind of surprised I was able to do that entire approach, but that is a lovely day of general aviation flying here in the Garden State. From Trenton Mercer Airport to Andover Aeroflex, utilizing A2A's Piper Comanche, and of course the software developer 42's Camp Out feature, which I absolutely love. So there we go. Until next time, have a good one.